Hello, dear YouTube friends. And for those who don't know me yet, my name is Mandy van Goeie. I am a Dutch artist illustrator. And today I want to tell you something about a little watercolor box that I got this summer. It's the Urban Sketches box by Roman Szmal. It's the Aquarius watercolor paint. Right, before I begin talking about the paint, I want to tell you that I'm not affiliated and I do not get paid to make this video. I did meet Roman Szmal, the man himself, however, last summer in Kunstburg, which is an art supply store here in the Netherlands, a really nice one. They are not paying me either to say all this, but Roman Szmal went there to promote his paints and invited me to come along and finally meet up because we'd been in contact for a few years, talking about the paint and I reviewed his paints, and there were quite a lot of people who wanted to know about the paint because they were new at the time. And at that time, I put him in contact with Kunstburg, the shop that now sells these paints. And I'm not a business partner in this. I'm just a pigment crazy person who sort of wanted to really have this paint available, close by and readily available as well. So, that sort of creates a relationship, I think, between Roman Szmal and his paint and me, and maybe even Kunstburg as well, the art supply store. So that's where it all came together, and it was a really, really lovely meeting. When you're really crazy about pigments, I don't know about you if you're as crazy about pigments as I am, but when I'm sitting somewhere and I see a color combination, in my mind, I start, pigment numbers start flashing in front of my eyes. Like, this could be a so and so, or now the light changes. Now I think it's more a so and so. Or maybe if I mix this and that, I could get that color. And my family literally goes crazy sometimes. And what they will even do when I'm when I'm in a pigment mood, what they will do is they'll start pointing at things like, what's that color, what pigment number is that? And they want me to cough up the numbers. And well, the thing is, the scary part about that is that after a while you actually really can sometimes. So you walk somewhere and it's like, well, I wouldn't call it, what is it, professional defamation or something. I won't say this is professional defamation. But sometimes I literally walk around somewhere going like, oh, that's pigment number so and so, and I don't even notice what it is. I just see the color. So it's weird. But the really crazy thing about that is you can't really talk about that to people around you. I mean, I don't have anybody. I know artists, and I have a rather big group of artistic and creative friends, but they are not as crazy about pigments as I am. And I think the reason for that is that, many of my artistic friends, where they come from is either the crafts direction, where they were working with all kinds of materials, or they were born with a pencil in hand, and they were natural, drawers, sketchers, which I am not and never have been. For me, being an artist started with makeup. I couldn't draw, but I was pretty damn good, doing somebody's makeup. So I would buy these huge palettes with, say 48 colors. And I loved the magic of combining the colors, mixing the colors, applying the colors to somebody's skin, because the colors would always be slightly transparent and they would look different on everybody's skin. And then it was, finding the right color for someone to make them, more beautiful, to make them shine. That was what I liked. But I had one problem in that area, is that when I went to, like, say, a really chic perfume and makeup store, and I would, because that's what I wanted to do when I was about 17 or something, I would make quite a bit of money, and I would go there to buy some eyeshadows. But the problem that I had was when they asked me which color I liked, was like, well, the problem is I like the combination of all the colors. I always wanted to have the full palettes. So that's where I come from. That's my origin in color. Then, I still never drew, and then I had small children, and I started taking courses in applying theatre makeup, because the place where we lived was really, really fanatic about carnival. So the children would have really good makeup on, and I wanted to learn that as well. And I turned out to be quite good at that. And my teacher very quickly said, I think you should start designing faces. And she gave me some sheets with, an empty face drawn on that. And she said, I want you to design a face. I want you to put on the makeup on somebody's face and see how it works out, and see how you can make the design communicative in the sense that somebody else could perform it as well. So that was a really big challenge for somebody who can't draw, who thinks she can't draw, because I always thought I couldn't, and then it turned out I could. In that setting, I could draw, and that's when it all began. But I was still really, really, really busy working on with colors. I was working with a lot of colors all the time. So that's where I come from. Colors, supplies, materials, and I'm very interested in sort of like a nutty professor experimenting with them. That's where I come from. So this meeting Roman Szmal was a really great chance, a really great opportunity to talk to somebody about pigments, somebody who I'm going to tap my face for a bit, sorry, somebody who looks at pigments from a different perspective than I do, because I look at it from the perspective of the user, the artist, the nutty professor, and he's the chemist, composing these colors. And what I found out about Roman Szmal is that he really, really listens to the artist, and that he also wants to be different from the other existing brands, like the Rembrandt, the Winsor Newton, the Schminke. He wants to stand out with his paint. As far as I know, his is the only brand, and this I really like him for. And I really gave myself that little present when I was there. Um, he's got two cobalt teals. He actually carries the PB28 and the PG50 pigment, and they are not the same. He was smart enough to make the PB28 slightly more blue, a little bluish, and the PG50 slightly more greenish. So I really had to get them both, of course. But I really loved it. He had the full collection, and I could try so many colors out. And well, there's a lot of things I learned about the pigments, like the reasons why some pigments are no longer produced. Like the PO48 is one of my favorite pigments. It's that beautiful copper orange, that glowy brown earth tone that really, really, really livens up any earth tone that you use it with. It just goes out of production because it used to be used for the automotive industry, and then the color isn't asked for as much anymore, and the pigment's no longer produced. So, as soon as the paint manufacturers run out of their supply of pigment, of that certain pigment, it's gone forever. I mean, there are so many new pigments that we got in recent years. I mean, the enormity of the colors we can choose from these days, doesn't compare to the small array of colors that was available to the like from the golden, like the painters from the golden era. And it's just looking back. I went to Antwerp last week, and I saw some paintings by Rubens, the real ones, the beautiful real ones, on oils on wooden panels, and they were so lush in color still. It was amazing. But what's especially amazing is that when I look at those paintings now, and then I think of my own supply, of my own collection of paints that I own, and I think I own nearly every pigment that's ever been used for watercolor paints, which is outrageous, of course, because I reviewed. I mean, this is something I wouldn't own these paints if I hadn't been reviewing paints. But I was looking back at Rubens's paintings, and I was thinking, oh my God, you only had so few colors to choose from, and yet you created such lively and such how shall I call it? They are so magnanimous. Isn't magnanimous is a word I don't even mag magnitude is like something's big. Magnanimous. Well, anyway, it's big, it's overwhelming, and not just in size, but in color as well. Rubens's work. I saw the two paintings in oh my god, cathedral. Oh, I didn't look up their names, sorry. But they are about Christ being put on the cross and being taken down the cross. um and what I noticed is that the bigness, the overwhelmingness doesn't only come from the size of the paintings, which was of course intended to happen, but the colors work with that as well. And that was just really amazing. And yeah, when I was with Roman Szmal and I saw his paints, and I had a gazillion questions. I forgot to ask so many, so I'll definitely meet up again next time he's in the Netherlands. But we did get to talk about a lot of colors. We also got to talk, for instance, about light fastness. Um, um, what I find really interesting about Roman Szmal and his paints is that when there is a critique on his paints, like a color isn't light fast enough, he will dive back into it and he will look for a solution, how to get it more light fast. He will do something about that, which I think only a smaller manufacturer can. So that makes, I think, his paint really, really interesting. And on top of that, the fact that for his, for composing the paints and for composing the sets of paint, he really looks at the artists and says, what do you like to work with? And he gave me this metal box with, well, it's an Urban Sketches box, and I'm turning it around because then you can see the colors it contains, and I will show you some color charts in a minute. And he was really eager to find out what I thought about that paint. I always find that really difficult when somebody, I've had this before, where somebody made their own paint, gave me some to try, and then wanted an immediate response. That's quite difficult because usually I will, well, like I said, I'm a nutty professor, and I will sort of like try my laboratory stuff on it and use it in different ways with different media. So usually it takes a while for me to say something about the paint, but I did play around with it, of course, and there were a few little discoveries I really liked. Like I found that from this set I can draw a color that's quite similar to malachite, but then much more light fast, since real malachite isn't light fast, or light fast. It will change in color, under the influence of certain chemical substances in the air and everything. Well, it's a difficult thing. Light fastness doesn't only depend on light. Well, maybe we should call it color fastness rather than light fastness when we talk about paints, because paints do not only change in color under the influence of UV light, but also under the influence of, how humid, under the influence of humidity. In a very humid area of the world, they might change differently than in a very dry area of the world. But also certain chemical substances in the air can also very well affect the colors, as well as, of course, the paper, which is also super important. And that was really interesting. And what Roman also said to me, and that was something that really surprised me, is that it really depends on, like, for instance, the white pigment if you put two pigments together that are each light fast, when you mix the two, they don't necessarily stay light fast as each single one of the pigments. Sometimes they have an influence on each other that might, deteriorate the performance with regards to light fastness. But in this case, we should call it color fastness, because then it's a chemical reaction. That was really, really interesting. So making paints is something totally different from painting, using the paints, and having some demands. Because sometimes, in reviewing the paints, there is also somewhat of an arrogance, may I call it that, where we say like, oh, something, this manufacturer should do this and that about this. But it's not very easy to just do this and that about something. There is a lot of work involved, and a lot of money, of course, too, in developing such lines. And I think it's incredibly brave that in these days there are brands, there are manufacturers like Roman Szmal who say, okay, so there is a market out there, and I want to step into it, and I'm gonna make a brand, and I'm going to establish that. I think it's very brave, but I think Roman Szmal is also rather successful. Part of that is because his prices are lower than those of some more, older brands, more established brands, so to speak. And yet the quality of the paint is really, really good. So that is a combination that artists will really find, because the prices, I think, are about as on about the same level as St. Petersburg paints, which I find, in my experience, were not as good. And so, yeah, that magic combination of a very good price with a very good paint, that will really help a brand settle down in a market. But it's a competitive market. So, well, anyway, I am not here to advertise. What I'm doing here is I'm just trying to, tell you about meeting up, and that it was really nice. He's a very kind man, and we had a very interesting talk. It was really nice to be at Kunstburg, because even though it is in my country, it's on the complete other end of the country, so I never ever go there. I always order online, and I experienced that they are super friendly and very well aimed at the service of their customers. Sometimes I would run, I remember this once. I had a workshop the next day, and I totally forgot to order the paper. And I rang them up like, I know I have to order before 3:30, but could you please send me, I don't remember how many blocks of paper, but they did that instantly for me and to help me out. And that is like, something you never forget. So it's just really good to have art supply stores around that are very, very customer friendly and approachable, because there are some different experiences with that, but I won't get into that now. This is not a video to diss anybody. Right, let's talk about the Urban Sketches set. Let's say that I was really surprised about the color combination when I saw the back of this. Normally what you find in a Sketches set is a warm and a cool yellow, a warm and a cool red, a warm and a cool blue. There will be a white, usually Chinese white for mixing purposes, and usually there will be a black, and there will be an ochre, and there will be an umber, sometimes a sienna, and greens. Sometimes they are there, sometimes they are not. Greens are, of course, just like oranges, very, very easy to mix. So why would you need green? Now, look at this. There is only one yellow in here, which was a surprise. There is one red in there, a warm one. Warm. I think it's kind of a neutral one. Pyrrole Scarlet. I don't think, is it warm? Is it cool? I find that difficult to say with Pyrrole Scarlet, because it's such a pure red that I can't really determine whether it's warm or cold. There is a magenta here. Then there is, a light and a darker blue, an ultramarine, and this is in fact a thale mix with white. So this actually has two pigments. And then there is a shadow gray. There is no black in here. There is a shadow gray in there. It's understandable. I think it's a very good choice, although with my own style of illustrative work that I sometimes do, I love having black around. So I would have preferred that. But if you're sketching, having a good gray in there, that it's a shadow gray, so it's a little bit unpredictable, and I'll show you my own color chart in a minute. I think it's a very good choice. Then there is sap green light, which is in reality is not as bright as this one. And then there's the Aquarius green. Look, they are both warm greens and they are both like mossy natural greens. There is no Viridian in here, and I like that because I don't like Viridian. I really never ever use it, not even for mixes. Then there is buff titanium, which I think is a grand choice, because buff titanium, when it came out, I didn't understand the fuss about it, but then I bought my first tube, I think it was Daniel Smith, you know, and I have that color from every brand I regularly use now. And I like Roman Szmal's very much. I think it's a very good one, but it is especially great for mixing natural tones. I think it's a better mixing color than Chinese white is, which just whitens things up, but this also makes it like a dirty white, like cream, like you mix cream in a color. And I think that approaches reality a bit more than white sometimes. Then there is gold ochre, PY43, which is a transparent one, which I like because I like working with transparent colors, because there are also ochres that are really chalky, and I don't like them. And then there is Italian burnt sienna, which is really nice, and a Cyprus burnt umber. Both really great. Also, what I really like is usually these mixes, these boxes contain cadmium colors, like cadmium yellows, cadmium reds, when you buy artist grade paints, as they are often seen as the standard colors in watercolor. I really dislike cadmium colors because they are so opaque. I never ever use them. And this is a quinocthalone yellow, and I'm telling you, I really this is a cheeky color, a cheeky kind of yellow. So now let me show you my own color chart, and I will now insert a photo of this in the video. This yellow is a wonderful yellow. It's a warm yellow that when you dilute it becomes a bit cooler, I think. And I like how it's like egg yolk yellow here, and then over here you can go down. When you dilute it, it becomes a really beautiful, soft yellow. And I really love it because it's a transparent color. Also, it's a cheeky color in that it's dominant. It's absolutely dominant. When you put two colors side by side, or when you lay down one color, a stripe of one color, you add a little bit of that yellow right next to it, the yellow will take over the other color and push all the pigments to the other end of the stain. So it's a very dominant color, which to my surprise, still allowed for a really beautiful malachite-like color mixing that's very soft and very tender. So I really like this yellow. I like it a lot more than what I see in regular other boxes. Well, then, as I said, this color is not as bright as it says on the box. It's more grassy, well, grassy. It's more like real sap green, whereas this looks like May green, which almost is neon. What I also notice is that there are relatively many colors in here that exist, are composed with more than one pigment that I would normally never ever choose. However, I worked with this set quite a bit. As you can see, there are deep holes in the paint, in the wells already. But I haven't found the problem of muddiness when I mix these colors with other colors. So I'll take you through the mixing chart as well. I find that even though some of these paints consist of more than one pigment, they do remain bright and powerful in their colors. And there is a lot of mixes that are possible, as I can show you here. So here is the diluted bit. Then there is the pure colors in the diagonal, and then over here is the thick mixes. And as you can see, it's a different mixing chart from when you have the standard travel set of watercolors that I just described, with a cool and a warm yellow and a cool warm red, blah, blah, blah. So it's different. And I think that's exactly what Roman Szmal wants. And I think he actually really succeeds. Because when I first saw this, you know, I sort of suspected a color chart like this. There is an incredible amount of greens and earth tones in here that are all kind of mossy. But look, when you are an urban sketcher, just look at these colors. There are so many colors there, like concrete, like roofs, like walls. You know, there are so many colors in this set that I feel are very realistic to the colors we see around us in daily life. So I'm actually, for the purpose it's made for, it's absolutely a really, really great set that I can highly recommend. But I've also, you know, I wanted to do this review only after having worked with it, and I have worked with it a lot. I've even, you know, I am the watercolor in this, which is the blue area around the tree, is a mix of colors from this set. And I'm now even right behind me, you see that one, the big blue patch behind me on the drafting table, that is actually the same color that I mixed from this small set. And I find I love these colors. They work for me. They work very well for me. So there was one thing I want to show you about this set. So there is no black in here, right? I told you that was a very conscious choice that Roman made in that respect, but it's very easy to mix your own black and neutral gray. Let me show you. I tried two things. I tried a mix with the darkest green and magenta, which I knew wouldn't work since it's not a pure, you know, I think it was PG7 that was used for that mixing of a rather neutral green. It didn't work, but it actually did result, I think, over here in a really, really beautiful mix with texture in there that you can use for beautiful earth tones in any landscape painting, or for rocks, for example. I think this works great. But now let's move to a combination that does work, of course. Burnt sienna and ultramarine intense. They form, well, a really beautiful, very intense gray or black, and then when you dilute it, it becomes a really beautiful, beautiful neutral gray. So it's very easy to mix, and well, as you can see over here, it's very easy to mix beautiful oranges. There are some purples in there. There are really, really pretty pinks, coral-like colors over here, for example. This set is, I really like it, and I really like using this for my work. So I will scan this color chart and put it in my blog. I'll put a link below this video. I will also scan this this swatch card, sorry. I had to think what the word was again, sorry. And the neutral gray chart, so that you can, you know, check out for yourself how you like it. One word I want to mention is that on this mixing chart, you can see how dominant that yellow is, because, you know, over here I had to, with the blues, I had to mix a lot to move towards the green, and over here you can see that once I diluted it, it's the blues that get easily diluted, not the yellows. So you can see that the yellow is a really, really strong color. Over here, as a little bonus on, you know, the mixing chart, is a couple of mixes. This is a color I've been using a lot lately, which is a mix of the sky blue and the Titan buff, and just a little bit of the orange that I mixed from these two. So that could easily go muddy, but as you can see, it doesn't go muddy. Because of the titanium buff, it goes slightly chalky and matte, almost looking opaque. It's not opaque though, it's still transparent. Over here you can see the mix that I think this sky blue is rather bright, and that you can tone it down really well with a little Titan buff to become a little bit more easygoing when you paint skies, for instance. Although when you dilute the sky blue, it really does become a beautiful soft kind of blue because there is already white mixed in. And then over here is the malachite color I was talking about, which is a mix of the sky blue and the quinophthalone yellow, which is a very, very dominant color. You should try it. But it does result in a beautiful malachite-like color. So if you like malachite as a color, you can always try mixing these. If you think this is a little bit too bright, you can tone it down just a little bit with Titan Buff so that it becomes more natural looking malachite green. And then you have a more light, fast version of it than the real malachite pigment, the organic malachite pigment. So, well, all in all, I had a really great day, you know, meeting up Roman Szmal. He also gave me a few other single pans of paint. What I cannot tell you What I cannot tell you, unfortunately, at this moment, I forgot to ask, but I'm sure that Roman Szmal will answer that. If we have the question, is whether these half pans will be available soon if you want to replace the colors. And if, should they not be, then I propose we can always take out the tray and glue in the big pans, because I think it would fit. And I think in the end, ultimately, looking at how much of the paint I've already used in just, you know, a couple of weeks time, I think that bigger pans would work great for me, to be honest. But I do use a lot of paint. Right, so I don't think at this time I have much more to say. I've already been talking to you more than half an hour. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you want to check out the color charts, I will post these high resolution photos on my website, on my weblog. The link you will be able to find the link below. If you have any questions, just let me know. And if you want to have more videos like these, or if you want to be updated about my work, you can sign up for my newsletter. I will also put the link to my newsletter below here. And of course, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which would really help. You know, subscriptions and thumbs up will help my videos get a little bit more attention, because YouTube is cooking the algorithms and is very much heading in the same direction as Facebook and Instagram are, and views are going down. So you know, if you want to help, you can help by responding, so that maybe the views will go back up a little bit, because, you know, when you make a video, you really want people to see it, right? So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon in a new video. Bye.